Hello everyone, and welcome to our Premier League predictions show on Football Tour Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host this evening. Now, with the transfer window closed, I believe this is the perfect time to assess the squads and present a prediction where I will give you my full table in terms of how I see the season ending. Plus, I'll present the teams that I feel like will be in the top five and in the relegation zone as well. So let's start by assessing each team in terms of see what they've done in regards to transfers and outgoings as well, and see what their current squads are looking like. So we'll start in alphabetical order, and we'll start with Arsenal. Now, Arsenal have been very, very busy in this window. Uh, in terms of incomings, they've signed Kepa for a very low price in 5 million, which is not bad for a backup keeper. You got Zubimendi, player that we thought would never leave the mountains at Sociedad, but he ended up making his move to the concrete jungle in what we call North London, and they signed Norgard as an experienced head in the squad. Madueke, a player that definitely didn't excite majority of the Arsenal fans. But I feel like if you look at the bigger picture, it's actually a good signing because he covers multiple positions. You got Mosquera, who they bought for 13 million, which I'll be honest with you is a great bit of business there because he's very highly regarded. And for 13 million this day and age, absolute peanuts to be honest with you. And then Eucharist, pretty much had to force a move or go pretty much on strike at his former club in Sporting in order to force this move to Arsenal. So he is a gunner now. Eze made a late call with Arteta to ask if there's any chance of him joining the Gunners, as there was a strong interest from their rivals in Tottenham. So he finally made his move. And they got a surprise signing in my books with Hincapie joining for Bayer Leverkusen on loan. But there was a lot of outgoings. Jorginho, Tierney, um, Tavares, Tomiyasu, Partey, Lokonga, Fabio Vieira, Kiwior went out on loan to Porto, which probably enabled the Hincapie move to take place. Then we got Zinchenko to Nottingham Forest, Reece Wilson, Nelson. He ended up joining Brentford on loan. So yeah, quite a few incomings and outgoings. But I feel like this is the first time in probably a very long time that Arsenal have pretty much the complete squad. They have players that can cover multiple positions. They've got about eight defenders um, and players that can play throughout the whole back line. They've got other players that can be makeshift defenders if required. They've got, real attacking presence, especially in that number 10 role. Before, I think Arsenal would rely heavily on Odegaard, but they've got Eze now who can you can definitely take that role. You've got Nwaneri, who's a player of great potential, great quality. He's a player that can cover a couple of positions. And of course, you've got the likes of Mendy who's joined in. He's already formed a partnership with Marino as they were both players at Real Sociedad. And then you've got Declan Rice and you've got a young wonder kid in Max Doman, who's part of the first team forward now. So an exciting prospect for the Gunners. And in terms of your attackers, they've got quite a few options there. You've got, I know there's a few injuries, but on paper there's about seven options. So you've got the likes of Havertz, Madueke, Trossard, Eucharist, Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka. So for me, this is a very, very complete squad. And let's not forget, they spent a lot of money. A lot of eyes was on Liverpool in terms of how much money, we spent. But the difference between Arsenal and Liverpool is that we've got a larger net spend. We made a lot of profit with ourselves. For Arsenal, it looked like they're just buying more players and just releasing players on frees or on loan deals. And because of that, we have to assess the squad. And it's a very, very complete squad. So, people seem to be pointing on us on Liverpool to win this year. Like the pressure's on us. Like we must win the league. I have to give that same energy to Arsenal because this is the first time that they've got a complete squad. There shouldn't be any arguments now or any excuses into oh we didn't have this, we didn't have you. You've got every player that you can think of in your squad now. You've got a player like Hincapie who can play in multiple roles. You've got Mascara as the young up and coming centre back. You've got Ben White who can play in multiple positions. Calafiori, Jordan Timber can play throughout the back line. Lewis Skelly can play as a left back, can also play midfield. And you've got the likes of Nwaneri, Nogard, Eze, Odegaard. They've got a lot of options, a lot of experience in that midfield. And then you've got likes of Trossard, Gyökeres. You've got a striker now. Gyökeres is the main striker at Arsenal, so there's no excuses. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Arteta to win something, even if it's a domestic trophy. It's still something that they can, label as a decent season. But I feel like the pressure's on them. Of course, Liverpool has the same pressure because, of course, we are current champions. But I think the amount of money they spend and pretty much having the complete squad. Because if you compare it to Liverpool, I don't think we do have the complete squad in terms of numbers, but we could have definitely done with, at least another addition in Mark Gay, which we're going to need to have to wait, I think, until January or next summer now. So, it depends how that goes. But I think Arsenal have the most complete squad in terms of the whole league. So pressure's on them as well to deliver or to win some silverware in this season. Now on to the next team is Aston Villa. Now Aston Villa definitely had to make some additions to their team. So they signed, I would say the surprising sign actually came on the transfer deadline day. They signed Sancho on loan from Manchester United, which is a real coup. And they signed Harvey Elliott from Liverpool, of course, on loan with an obligation to buy for 35 million. They signed Lindelof on a free transfer, so he gives them cover and experience in those centre back positions. There was a few outgoings. You've had Robin Olsen, one of the experienced goalkeepers. He departed. Coutinho ended up making his move to Vasco da Gama on a permanent basis. You've also got Jacob Ramsey, probably one of the most high-profile sell from Aston Villa, where he joined Newcastle for around 40 odd million. Leon Bailey joined Roma, which was a slight surprise, and Alex Moreno as well ended up joining Girona. So, in terms of the players that they brought in, I think the ones that they brought in on the last day would definitely help in terms of the squad. But do they have enough strength in depth? I think they could have done with another striker, to be honest with you, but they still have plenty of quality in the squad. The players that have departed were probably players that were on the fringes more than anything else. So it'll be interesting to see, how Aston Villa do. I think they'll challenge for a European place, whether it's Europa League or Champions League, remains to be seen later in the show. But I think they will definitely be up there challenging for one of the top finishes at the end of the season. Next team, you've got Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, fortunately, sold a lot of players due to their very solid season last year. So you had the likes of Zabani, who I really rate. He ended up moving to PSG. We signed Milos Kerkez for 40 million. Dean Howson, who had a great sort of debut season for Bournemouth, he made his move to Real Madrid. And then you've got the likes of Otara, who made the move to Brentford. Um, you've also got Sinisterra leaving, which was a slight surprise. He went to Cruzeiro on loan. Um, and in terms of incomings, they signed Diakite, who ended up making his debut against Liverpool and showed a good performance there. You've got Adrian Truffert, who was a Kirk's replacement, and to be fair, looked good against Liverpool as well. So yeah, decent signing. Ben Doak, for me, a young and up and coming player. So one for the future. You've got Amin Adli, very highly rated player from Bayer Leverkusen, and they made a couple of additions in Milosav Savlovic from Red Star Belgrade, and they also signed Alex Jimenez from AC Milan on loan. So some decent additions. I feel like they replaced some of the players that left the club. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. I don't know if they'll be as dominant as they were last year, but then again, the way they played against us in the opening fixture, they were playing just like they did last year. It's just different profile. So the philosophy is still there from the coach. So it'll be very intriguing to see, how they perform and if they're able to improve from last year's finish. On to the next team, Brentford. Yeah, Brentford, a lot of outgoings. And Bremer being one of the most high profile ones for 71 million. Norgard going to Arsenal. Flecken joining by Leverkusen very early in the window. And then Wissa, who pretty much went on strike and forced his move to Newcastle, and in the end, got what he desired. But in terms of incomings, Michael Kyoto, they had this player on loan from January. They've made it permanent in a £14 million deal. Kelleher, who they signed from Liverpool, great bit of business. I think they've signed a very top quality goalkeeper in the Irishman. Jordan Henderson joins on a free from Ajax. Uh, Atara, for me, a very talented player. He joins Brentford, so he's definitely going to give them an attacking presence up top. And they've got Reece Nelson to provide some width on that right hand side. So some good additions here. It'll be intriguing to see how they do. They've got a new coach in Keith Andrews, so whether he's up to standard for the Premier League, remains to be seen. But they have made some decent inclusions, so it'll be very interesting to see how they perform this season. The next team is Brighton. Now they, of course, know how to sign players. They always sign players that are very sort of highly regarded. So the likes of Maxime the Kuiper from Club Bruges, they signed him for 17 million. They've signed Diego Coppola for 9 million from Verona. Uh, but few outgoings, which definitely surprised. One that surprised me was Evan Ferguson to Roma, which I didn't see coming. And Dingra, who I thought was really good at Brighton. He ended up making his move to Sunderland. João Pedro to Chelsea. I think that was always on the cards that he was going to make his move elsewhere. Estupinian to AC Milan. So they pretty much replaced Theo Hernandez in their team. And then you've got who else did they have? I think that was what the sort of the high profile players, I would say. You know, Tarek Lamptey. I know he wasn't a regular as much as he probably wanted, but he joined Fiorentina for 6 million. Igor, who us local fans will not be happy about in terms of what happened here, but he was supposed to go Palace, but ended up moving to West Ham on loan on the final day, which pretty much blocked our move to sign um, Mark Gahey. And then another surprise was Wanote, who goes out on loan to Chelsea. I think he's a really talented player. So that one definitely surprised me. So a lot of outgoings, the incomings, very unknown to the regular English fan or English football fan. So I'm intrigued to see how some of them perform. The likes of Postulus, who cost them 31.4 million. So intriguing to see how he does. But I still expect them to challenge for a European finish this season. So it should be an exciting, intriguing time for Brighton. Burnley, of course, just coming up from the Championship. They signed Carl Walker on for 5 million. So he pretty much cut short his loan spell. AC Milan didn't work out for him. Tuan Xavier, they got for on a free transfer. Hartman, former um, player for Arne Slot, the left back from Feyenoord, they signed him as well. Marcus Edwards for 8.5 million from Sporting. You got Brun Larsen from Stuttgart. Ugochukwu from Chelsea, 23 million. Dubravka, an experienced goalkeeper. You've got Armando Broja from Chelsea for 20 million. And Florentino Luis, I don't know if us local fans remember, we were linked to him for about 2, 3 years ago as a replacement for Fabinho, because they thought he was going to be his long-term successor. But yeah, that never panned out. But he makes his move to the Premier League eventually. In terms of outgoings, and probably the biggest or the most high-profile one would have been James Trafford to Man City. At one point, it looked like he was going to Newcastle, but Man City came in and swayed the goalkeeper to join them, although he may regret it now because they've actually signed a better keeper in Donnarumma. And then a lot of players were released, the likes of Nathan Redmond, John Josh Shelby, Josh Brownhill. Um, so a lot of players went out on loan as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting for um, Burnley. I don't think they've done enough in terms of acquisitions, but only time will tell. They've had a decent start in the Premier League so far. So they won one game. Of course, they've lost two, but they have shown that maybe they've got something about them this season. So yeah, let's see how Burnley present themselves. Are they going to survive, or are they going to be in a relegation battle for most parts of the season? Uh, Chelsea. Now, I thought Liverpool did amazing business when it came to regaining funds, but I think Chelsea are definitely on our level, maybe even better. If I'm being brutally honest, there was a lot of outgoings from their side, and a lot of incomings as well. So maybe we'll touch on the incomings first. So Jamie Gittins for 50 odd million pounds from Dortmund, a player for the left wing, decent player to be fair. Player that was linked with Liverpool plus other Premier League sides. So interesting to see, how they embed him in the team because they do have quite a few wide options. João Pedro for me is an absolutely fantastic signing. I think it was a steal. For 60 million is not that crazy in this market. So I feel like they've signed a player that pretty much fits the bill really well at Chelsea. Liam Delap, 30 million, good signing. Unfortunately, he's injured right now, so could be out for some time. But on paper, was regarded as a good signing for me. Joe Hatto, I'm personally disappointed that he's gone to join Chelsea because I wanted him at Liverpool. He's a very talented player. So if he gets the opportunity to play in the first team, he would definitely, show his potential. Because I feel like he's a player that could really make a name for himself in the league. Estavio Villian for me looked very promising in the Club World Cup for Palmeiras, and so far he's made a couple cameos and looks the business. So another great signing there for Chelsea. And then you've got Garnacho, who signed on the last day for 40 million. I'm not so sure on that one. I don't rate him very highly. I'm not sure if it was needed, to be brutally honest with you. But Chelsea loves to do business. Maybe it's more of a deal where they thought maybe they can make a profit for him in the future. But in terms of outgoings, bloody hell, there's a lot of names. I'll pick out a few because I've got it all written down, but there's a lot. So Arsenal signed Kepa from Chelsea for 5 million. Madueke of 2 million there. João Felix went for 43.7 to Al Nassr. What a great deal that was. Dewsbury Hall joins Everton for 29 million. Ugochekwe for 23 million to Burnley. Broha to Burnley again for 20 million. So they recruit 43 million on two players that were pretty much not part of the picture at all. Renato Vega, surprised one that they sold him, but they sold him for 26 million pounds. Uh, Chukwemeka has joined Borussia Dortmund for 24 million. They know how to make money, don't they, Chelsea? And Koku for 36 million to AC Milan. Now, this one has to be daylight robbery. Nicholas Jackson to Bayern Munich on loan. And correct me if I'm wrong, there is an obligation to buy for 70 million pounds. Yeah, that I don't know what happened from Bayern Munich. That is an absolutely crazy deal to do, Chelsea. Chelsea have definitely got away with that one. 70 million for Jackson. Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. And plus they still get, I think, 20, I think they get about 10 to 15 million pounds on loan as the loan fee for this season. So sheesh, they've done wonders to get that kind of deal. So that's why, you know, whether we like it or not, they know how to wheel and deal, and they've certainly done that in this window. Crystal Palace. Now, of course, not in my good books in terms of what occurred on the last day. But I'll be honest with you, speaking as a neutral, I don't think they did enough business. They signed Benitez, goalkeeper, Sosa, Jeremy Pino, who is pretty much regarded as Eze's replacement in the team. Canvo was brought in to replace Mark Gay, but I guess he's another addition to their squad. And Uche from Getafe, who I believe is a striker. But they've sold quite a few players. So Eze, of course, went and got his dream move to Arsenal. Rob Holding moved over to Colorado Rapids on a free transfer. Joe Ward was released this summer, as well as Schlupp. Then you've got a lot of players going out on loan, so a lot of young players within the ranks. This one definitely surprised me. Mateus Franca, he was bought quite a bit of money 2, 3 years ago. pretty much to replace Wilfred Zaha, but unfortunately never got the ball rolling. He picked up quite a few injuries that kept him out for a long periods of time, and unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. So that's why he's gone over to Brazil, and then you've got Eduardo as well, who's been pretty much a big part player in the last couple of years. So he's moved over to Lens. So in terms of Palace, I don't think they've done enough business, considering that they will be playing European football in the Conference League, and because of that, I would expect them to have a bit more of a larger squad. So it's going to be interesting to see how they perform this season. But for me, not enough business, if I'm being brutally honest. Everton definitely surprised me. I thought they've signed some really good players, the likes of Tyler Dibbing, who looked really good for Southampton last year. They signed him for 42 million. Jack Grealish on loan, that is a major coup. Let's not, kid ourselves. Dewsbury Hall, very solid, hard-working midfielder for 29 million. They've signed and them as now I'm not too familiar, but they've signed him from Bayern Munich, and they've made that move for Alcaraz, permanent move from Flamengo for 12 million. So some decent additions there, really good signings, but a lot of departures as well. The likes of Morpay, which I don't think they were, uh, they were hoping to get a sooner rather than later because he made his opinion very clear that he didn't want to come back last year, trolling them online. So that was always going to be on the card. Begovic, Holgate, Ashley Young moves to Ipswich on a free transfer. Calvert-Lewin joins Leeds United. You've got Doucouré, surprisingly gets released. Not sure what's happened to him. Has he been signed by anyone? Because I thought he was one of the probably dominant players over the last couple of years. Um, Looks like he's moved over to Saudi Arabia, so he's in the Pro League playing for a team called Neom. So yeah, surprised by that one. I thought they would have kept him on board. And Trinity joins Rangers for £10 million. You don't really see Rangers spending that kind of money in this day and age, but maybe they've got some extra funds that we're not aware of. So for me, the outgoings were players that were maybe on the latter stages of their career or not involved with the team, but the signings of Dibbling and Grealish and Dewsbury Hall, I think will give them a lot of strength in that midfield and on the wide area. So for me, good signings there. Striker wise, apologies, they've also signed Ndoye as well, haven't they? So he's a player that looks, really, really good for Everton, for his former club, which was Bologna. So he's a very talented player. So I feel like they've got someone that can lead the line. They've also got a player that can play in the wide areas as well. So for me, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform as a collective. Beto is still there, so he'll be a player that causes havoc from a physical point of view. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, in terms of how they do. I don't think they'll be in a relegation battle. I think they've got enough quality um, to be around the mid-table. I don't think they'll be challenging for Europe or anything like that, but they'll have a solid season nonetheless. Fulham now, Fulham very quiet at one point in the market, but all of a sudden they started making some moves on the final day. They signed a player called Kevin, a Brazilian player from Shakhtar, on the last day, as well as Chukwueze, Nigerian winger from AC Milan on loan, and they've signed a player called Kusi Asare from Bayern Munich. So it'll be interesting to see how these players adjust. Uh, in terms of outgoings, Pereira, slightly surprised by that one. Off to Palmeiras for 8.7. Carlos Vinicius Willian departs from the club. Uh, and those are the sort of the high profile ones. So I'm not sure if Fulham have done enough business, but I do believe that they have a very strong core. So if they're able to keep most players fit throughout the whole season, they should have a decent season going forward. Leeds United, now one of the newly promoted teams. Uh, terms of incomings, they've signed the likes of James Justin from Leicester, Okafor, good player from AC Milan, Calvert-Lewin on a free transfer, Lucas Perry from Lyon, Longstaff from Newcastle, Goodmanson from Lille, and they've signed Nemeka from Wolfsburg on a free. So they've signed some, and sorry, Anton Stacks as well for 17.4 million. So some decent signings there. Just going to be intrigued to see how all of these players fit in, and do they improve um, this Leeds United team. They also signed Xhaka Bijul for £15 million from Udinese. So quite a few, additions, but a lot of departures as well. The likes of Junior Firpo, who moves back to Real Betis on a free, and Patrick Bamford released. So yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't given a new contract. So I think they're going to find it very difficult this season. The additions they made, they are of good quality or profile, but whether it's enough, it's going to be a tough test for Leeds United. Now, Liverpool Football Club. We already did a dedicated show yesterday for the Reds, but we'll speak about it briefly, for this current show right now. So in terms of incomings, Liverpool were definitely kept busy. Signed the likes of Kerkez, Frimpong, Wirtz, Mamadashvili, who we agreed to deal last year, but ended up making the move this summer. We've signed a couple of goalkeepers. One who's a young profile in Armin Betshi, and then we've got an experienced keeper in Freddie Woodman. We signed another wonder kid, I guess, from Salford City in the name of Will Wright. Plus, we signed another player who is very highly regarded in the world when it comes to playing in defense, and that is Giovanni Leone. And of course, Ekitike, fantastic start to his season so far. And can't go about saying that we have beaten the British transfer record to sign Alexander Isak. So we've got some real gunmen in our team now. So it should be interesting to see how Liverpool perform. In terms of outgoings, there were quite a few, but Liverpool had their business mind screwed on and brought in a lot of money with those outgoings. So the likes of Nunes, who went for around 50 odd million to Al Hilal. Trent, he pretty much left on a free as he didn't want to sign a new contract, but because Real Madrid wanted to get him earlier than planned, they had to fork out 10 million in order for him to partake in the Club World Cup. Kelleher joined Brentford. Kwanzaa made the move to Leverkusen for around 35 million. Luis Diaz went on to move to Bayern Munich, which I was a little bit disappointed that he, made that move, but with everything put into place, I understood his reasons and also understand why Liverpool didn't want to offer him a new contract. But hopefully that is one transfer that I hope we don't regret, because he's a player that I feel like is playing his prime right now. So let's see, how it pans out for Liverpool and see how he does for Bayern Munich this season. Tyler Morton is already a fan favorite at Lyon. Nat Phillips, Ben Doak, Yaros, Owen Beck, Lucas Stevenson. You've got Kumas, who's gone out on loan to Birmingham. McConnell, who's made a move to Ajax, rejoining our former coach in John Heitinga, and Harvey Elliott makes his move to Villa on loan, as well as Simicast, who joins Roma on loan as well. So a lot of outgoings, but I feel like Liverpool have brought in real quality, for the first time, where it's not just players of potential, it's players that can come in and make an impact right away. So I'm very excited to see how these players gel together, because it's going to be very, very interesting. And I feel like the Premier League teams are already worried, especially with the signing of Isak. Some of them have already handed in the white towel. So it's going to be interesting nonetheless, how this season unfolds. Another team that had to do some business in order to regain a bit of momentum and refresh their squad, and that was Man City. I feel like they've signed quite a few good players this window. You know, Reinders, for me, a player I've rated for quite some time. Really good signing from AC Milan. And Nuri, top fullback there from Wolves. Ryan Cherky, very talented attacker there. Sever Nipan, so if you're not familiar with him, very talented player. They've regarded him as the next Odegaard in Norway. He's that kind of profile, so be on the lookout for him. James Trafford, 35 million signing from Burnley. You thought he was going to be the number one keeper, but an opportunistic signing came about in the final days of the window, and Man City were able to sign Donnarumma from PSG for £26 million. What a steal that is! But there were a lot of outgoings as well for Man City. So you've got the likes of De Bruyne moving over to Napoli, Edison joining Fenerbahce for 12 million. That was a bit of a surprise that he made his move there. Akanji ended up getting his move on loan to Inter Milan. You've got Scott Carson released. He was definitely um, making a living. or should I say stealing from making a living, to be fair, because he barely kicked a ball. Kyle Walker moves over to Burnley for 5 million. And then you've got Jack Grealish going out on loan. James McAtee for £30 million to Nottingham Forest. That's a huge amount of money there. Um, I mentioned Severe Nipa. I didn't realize it until now that he's actually moved over to Middlesbrough on loan. So definitely see him as a development sort of player. Slightly surprised. I thought he would have been utilized in the squad at some point. And then you've got Ilkay Gundogan, who joins, I guess, his boyhood club in Galatasaray. 'Cause I saw a picture of him as a young kid wearing the Galatasaray colour. So that's a nice moment there for Gundogan there. Now, on to the next team, Manchester United. Um, Yeah, I thought they were going to do a lot more business, if I'm being really honest with you guys, because they appointed a coach who has a different way of playing in comparison to what United have played over the years. And he's very stubborn. He only likes to play it a certain way, and that is playing a 3-4-3 sort of formation. And because of that, I thought they would have made a lot more signings because if you look at their squad, a lot of the players aren't, the right fit to play that formation. And it's not like this manager is going to change tactics anytime soon. He's got his tactic boards out against Grimsby, and couldn't really do anything from there onwards. So his sort of announced for changing formation is probably limited because he's got one way of playing. So I'm surprised that United didn't sign more players than they did. But the players they brought in, decent caliber players. So Mbeumo, sort of an established Premier League player from Brentford for 71 million, a huge amount of money. But some people say, it's worth the price because of his experience and his output in the Premier League. Cunha had a fantastic season last year. He joined for 62.5 million. Dio Leon from Cerro Porteño for 7 million. Not too familiar with him, to be honest with you guys. Benjamin Sesko, a player I am familiar with, and I'm very pleased that we didn't sign him because he's not a great player. That's just me being very blunt there. He joined for 73.7 million. Crazy amount of money. It costs more than Ekatike. That puts it into perspective. And they signed Sen Lemans from Royal Antwerp. They were strongly linked to a move for Emiliano Martinez from Aston Villa. I thought that would have been a great acquisition to their squad, but for some reason, that deal fell through. Now, I've not seen Le Mans in action. I'll be very brutally honest with you guys. But if he's been brought in to be number one, that's a lot of pressure for a very young goalkeeper. I've even seen compilations of him making errors where people are suggesting that he's just another Onana. So that's never really a good comparison to have. But you know, if the scouts believe that he's the right player for them, we'll be there to see if that is true or not. In terms of outgoings, quite a few outgoings. So Garnacho to Chelsea, I think United probably got the better deal. I don't think he's that great, to be fair. 40 million, decent amount of money. Ericsson and Evans leave on a free. Lindelof ends up joining Villa on a free. Rashford makes his loan move to Barcelona. You've got Hoyland, who makes his move to Napoli on the final days of the season, on loan. Anthony joins Real Betis for £21.7 million and gets a hero's reception, which I saw earlier today in terms of the footage when he first arrived to join the club. So yeah, he's definitely loved there already. And you've got Sancho joining Aston Villa on loan. So it's going to be a tough season for United. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Liverpool fan. I don't think they've recruited well enough. The coach seems to be very limited in terms of his tactical approach. And so far, they've been quite abysmal. Getting knocked out by Grimsby in the second round of Carabao Cup doesn't bode very well. So it's going to be a long season for them. Very, very long season. I actually don't think Amarin will be around for long. You know, as a Liverpool fan, I want him to be as long as possible, but I would be very surprised if he's still in the job past this Christmas. But let's see what happens in regards to his position at the club. Newcastle United, very much in the discussion, especially amongst us Liverpool fans, because of a certain player. And they seem to make a lot of noise that they weren't, signing players and all that sort of stuff. But considering a team that's had PSR issues, they invested quite heavily. And they can't be too mad at Liverpool for signing Isak because those funds have definitely helped facilitate these moves here and probably have helped them with PSR, sorry, regulations for the next few years. So maybe they should thank us later. But in terms of incomings, Alanga from Nottingham Forest, £55 million, great signing, really, really good player. I think he'll definitely add something to their attack. Ramsdale joins from Southampton, signing. Voltemade, a player that wasn't probably on top of their list, but maybe he was a player that came out of the blue because they didn't think he was a realistic target. He joins for around 70 odd million pounds. A very tall figure, and looks like he's got something about him. He's a player that just because he's big, he's not a clumsy player on the ball. He's a player that's very technical, great dribbler. So defies the odds in terms of what you see from him. So you never judge a book by his cover. That's definitely the saying there. But he's definitely got something about him. So he'll be an interesting addition to their squad. And you've also got Jon Wissa, who's forced his move to Brentford. You never know. You might see Voltemade and Wissa forming an alliance as a strike force at Newcastle. Another sort of reminiscent of an old pair from years ago, like Peter Crouch and Defoe, the big guy and the small guy together. You never know. They have been screaming about a 4-4-2 formation throughout the summer, although they were singing the names of Iketika and Isak, but those two players are at Liverpool. Now, in terms of outgoings, quite a few outgoings. So Lloyd Kelly makes his move to Juventus for £20 million. I think that's a great bit of business there. Callum Wilson joins West Ham for free. Jamal Lewis played out very highly rated a few years ago. Unfortunately, he gets released. Sean Longstaff joins Leeds United. Dubravko joins Burnley. You've got Alexander Isak, of course, making his move to Liverpool. But I think in terms of the squad of Newcastle, I think they have made some really good additions. And I definitely think they will be in the mix to challenge for a European finish once again. So definitely a very strong um, competitor for those European places at the top. Nottingham Forest. So they were, very, very busy. Apologies, I said Ndoye for Everton. I meant Ndiaye. They've got Ndiaye on a permanent. So they've actually signed a player called Ndoye, who's from Bologna. Very talented player. So I'm intrigued to see how he does there. Uh, Igor Jesus for £10 million. Signed a lot of players from Botafogo. I believe that the owner, I've forgotten his name now, is going to have some sort of ownership at the club, and it looks like as part of that deal, they've given him a few players, the likes of Ciobano, John, and then you've got Jay Cunha, and you've got Igor Jesus as well. So yeah, bit of I'll say cheeky business there because it's probably not how things are conducted, but I guess they're not breaking the law, but it is what it is, I guess, in regards to that. But they have made some good additions as well. So the likes of Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich, who had a good season for them last year. James McAtee, 30 million is a huge fee, but very talented young player. Kalimuendo, very highly rated striker from Bronze. They've signed for 25 million. Davis Luiz, they've signed from Juventus on loan with an obligation to buy. And then you've got Zinchenko that came in on the last day of the window. Um, and one player that we thought was going to leave was Gibbs White, but whether it was due to being in a hostile, pressured environment or not. He ended up making, or should I say, he ended up signing a new contract with Nottingham Forest. And the interview, I think, will definitely go down as the most awkward contract extension announcement we've ever seen. It just seemed very peculiar, and it felt like he had guns pointing at him from behind. Looked very nervous, but he's still a Nottingham Forest player, so let's see how he does this season. But in terms of outgoings, Alanga, of course, joined Newcastle. You've got Omar Bamidele, who joins Strasbourg. You've got who else do we have? Danilo. You've got Matt Turner. So quite a few players that have departed, but I feel like the additions that they made should be, solid additions and should improve the team Whether they'll be challenging for a European spot again, I'm not too sure. I think they might just miss out. But I'm expecting them to be around the top half of the table, nonetheless. On to the next team, one of the newly promoted teams in Sunderland. Uh, Sunderland definitely were very busy in the market. Uh, Granit Xhaka signed from Bayer Leverkusen, so they brought in a player with huge Premier League experience. Adingra for me is a real coup, very highly rated player in my opinion, for 20 million from Brighton. Enzo Lefebvre, a player that Liverpool were linked with a couple of years ago. I see him as a very talented player. Don't know if he'll be, suited to the Premier League now, because he's a little bit older. But in the technical from a technical point of view, very, very talented player. So I'm intrigued to see how he does. Uh, it says Mark Gee on my list here, but I believe he's been recalled to join Chelsea again. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's no longer a signing now. Um, you've got Mukiele, uh, former Red Bull Leipzig and PSG defender for £12 million. Gutruda on loan from Red Bull Leipzig. That's a coup, in my opinion. And they made a double swoop from Ajax with Brian Brobe and Bertrand Traore on the final day of the season. Now to the outgoings. I think the most high profile one um, would have been Joe Bellingham. Of course, he went over to Dortmund for 32 million. Tommy Watson went to Brighton for 10. Uh, and those are the ones that, ring a bell to me in terms of names. But I think they've made some really good additions. Some players not with a lot of Premier League experience, but definitely players of good quality. So it'll be interesting to see how they are integrated into this team. But I feel like Sunderland are one of the teams from the promoted side that I feel like does have a chance of retaining their Premier League status this season. Now on to the next team, Tottenham Hotspurs. Now I feel like they've done really good business, if I'm being honest with you. They made a permanent move for Danso for around 20 odd million. Vuskovic for 9.5. Matthias Tel, that was another move made permanent from Bayern Munich for around 30 million. Mohamed Kudus, what a coup that was for £55 million. That's not a lot of money. I think he's going to excel. I think he's going to be one of the star players in Tottenham. Polina, good experienced player there from Bayern Munich. Xavi Simons, for me, very talented player. Of course, they missed out on Eze, but I think, Simons an adequate alternative. So good signing there. And Kolo Muani on the last day of the window from Paris Saint-Germain on loan. Great signing. He's a player that I think will be utilized on that left-hand side or could even play up top. He's very lethal in those positions. So great, great signing for Tottenham. I think they've made some really good additions to their squad. In terms of outgoings, the likes of Heung-min Son made a surprise move to LAFC. I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you. But he's gone over to the US. Although I think I've heard his dad say in the past that he wouldn't be happy if his son ever made that move. So maybe they're not on talking terms anymore. Mickey Moore, very talented young player. He makes his loan move to Rangers, which is probably more for his development. So I expect him to return to Tottenham next season. You've got the likes of Fraser Foster, Reguilon that were released. Um, and then who else do we have? So that's probably the high profile players that were sort of sold or loaned out in this window. But I think Tottenham have made some really good additions in their team. On to the next team, West Ham. Um, Not the best of Premier League starts, to be fair. They just about, secured a win over the weekend. But in terms of the opening two games, looked very, very shaky at the back. But they have made some additions to their squad. Podibo, that was made permanent for £35 million. El Haj Malik Diouf, the left back from Slavia Praga. That was an interesting group there. A player that performed really well for Senegal against England not so long ago. So a good signing there. Kyle Walker Peters comes on a free transfer. Callum Wilson, another free transfer there. Hermanson from Leicester City for £18 million. Mateus Fernandez, decent player, very player who can play across the midfield, 42 odd million. And then again, yeah, Igor Julio for from Brighton on loan. And of course, there's a few outgoings as well, the likes of Kudus, Edson Alvarez to Fenerbahce, Cresswell, Kofal, Mikel Antonio, Fabianski, Ings, Zuma, Emerson, Cornet, and Agard as well. So a lot of players have left the club. So whether they have the enough numbers or the strength and depth to maintain their Premier League status, it's going to be a huge ask, if I'm being honest with you. Um, but Graham Potter will definitely need to work his magic because it hasn't been a great start, but they've kept the hold of Jarrod Bowen, who's definitely the talisman of this team. So if they can keep him fit and make sure he's firing in all cylinders, then they'll have a chance of moving up the table or in a more respectable position at the end of the season. And the final team for review is Wolverhampton. Now, Wolverhampton, let's see in terms of their um outgoing. So of course Cunha left, Ainuri left, Guedes left for 5.2 million, which is absolute peanuts to Real Sociedad. Semedo was released. Um, Tomido went to Birmingham on loan. Pablo Sarabia has joined Al Abri. Uh, Fabio Silva has joined Borussia Dortmund. So in terms of incomings, they've got Jurgen Strand Larsen. I didn't realize that was an incoming for this window because he was linked to a move to Newcastle, which apparently fell through on the final day. In terms of other players, they've signed uh, Arokodare from Genk, so he's a striker that they've signed. And the other players, I'll be brutally honest, I'm not too familiar with. So I think they're going to struggle. A lot of the players that they left were pretty much one of the stronger players in their lineups. So I think they're going to struggle, unfortunately, this season. So that's my review of each team in the Premier League before I present my predicted Premier League table. I'm just going to go through some of the comments. Uh, from Ozan Clark says, "Yo, Ozzy. So I see it got a bit heated last night. Yeah, when people come up with silly opinions and silly narratives, I have to address it in the way that I can. So yeah, it did get a bit heated, but that is how it happens when it comes to football discussion. It does get heated from time to time. So yeah, no difference on this channel. AR says, big up Ozzy, Ozan, and chat. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to you, Ozan. So AR, I hope you're well. And he's said, smash, like, and subscribe. Question: Chiesa, not in the UCL squad. Do you like Maka and Grab in a double pivot? And we need a centre back addition. Yeah, of course, the centre back addition we definitely do, but that will be addressed. I believe in January. Well, I'm hoping more than anything else because there has been links with Bayern Munich and Real Madrid for Mark Gay to sign on a free next summer. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But in terms of Chiesa not in the squad, I am very surprised about that. I thought he would definitely be included in the Champions League squad due to his experience, and I feel like his skill set would have suited us when we played against European opponents. So I'm very surprised about that. If he didn't really have an important role in the team, why was he kept on? Maybe we should have loaned him out or sold him if Arsenal didn't value the player. He wasn't part of the preseason tour, which is not a huge deal because at the time I think he picked up a knock in one of the preseason fixtures. But now to not have him in the Champions League squad, it's a huge surprise, if I'm being honest. Uh, AR says, "Oh, you've gone for your prediction. I'm gonna have to present that later on. Apologies. I can see Ozan's predictions. I'll present your predictions as well." Philip says, "Big up Ozzy, big up Philip. I hope you're doing well." Um, SSP says, big up yourself, SSP. I hope you're well." Brady says RP to the chat. 45 minutes in, and the host hasn't read the chat once. Well, I can't read the chat whilst I'm doing an analysis of each team in the league. So you have to let me do my what's the word? Let me do my presentation, and then once I've given you my thoughts about each team, then we can chop it up and talk about prediction because the chat is full of predictions. So there's no point of me reading out comments of predictions when I haven't even presented my predictions. So you know, you got to read the title of the show. It's a prediction show, but I'm going to go through each team in full depth, which is what I've done now. Um, but of course, if you watch my shows, I always refer to the chat at some point, and I try to read every comment as well. So Yeah, bear with me. It is that type of show. It's not a transfer show where I let everyone get involved straight away. I have to let do my analogies and let me do my sort of assessments of each team, and then we can move on from there. So right now, what we'll do, we will present the bottom half of the table. And then once I present my table, I'll go through the comments and read out some of your predictions as well. So this is my prediction for the bottom half. So the three relegated teams for me will be Wolves, Burnley, and Leeds United. I don't think Wolves have made enough signs or have enough in the locker to continue or maintain their Premier League status. This season they have been around those fringes of the relegation zone for a number of years, and I think this is the year when unfortunately they will go down. Burnley, I think they have made some good signs, but I don't think it'll be enough to keep them up. And Leeds United made some good players as well, but not a lot of the players for me are probably Premier League level at this stage. So those are the three teams that I've gone with. And from 11th to 17th, I've gone for Bournemouth in 11th, 12th, Everton, 13th, Fulham, 14th, Crystal Palace, 15th, Brentford, 16th, West Ham, and 17th, Sunderland. Now, uh, let's have a look at the top half of the table that I'm predicting. So, a lot of United fans might not be happy with, but I don't, have huge expectations for this United team. So I think they will be 10th, and I think I've actually been quite generous or quite polite by placing them in the top half because the way that they're playing right now, they probably shouldn't be in the top half. But I think because of some of the signs that they made, it will improve further down the line. Whether it's under Amarin's management, I'm not too sure. I think he will probably end up getting sacked at some point. They could maybe re-sign one of their former coaches in Ten Hag, Mourinho, or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who've all been sacked pretty much in the same week, which is quite ironic there. But in terms of the other predicted positions, I've gone for Nottingham Forest in ninth place, Brighton in eighth, Aston Villa in seventh, and Newcastle in sixth place. So this season, I believe five of the teams will qualify for the Champions League. So this is my top five prediction for this season. So in fifth place, I'm going for Tottenham. I think they have recruited very, very well, and I've been very impressed with the players that they've added. I've also been impressed in terms of how defensively sound they are under Thomas Frank, and I think that's going to be a huge change and difference from Ange Postecoglou. Of course, his philosophy was very much attack, attack, attack. But I feel like for a team to evolve, your defense has to be as solid as your attack. So with Thomas Frank in charge, I think they'll have a good season in his opening year. So I think Tottenham will finish in fifth place. Chelsea, I think, will finish in fourth place. I think they've made some good additions. They probably got about 50 man in their team or their squad, I should say. So they'll be happy to rotate quite a few of them. But the addition of João Pedro, I think that's really impressed me in terms of how he's performed. So it'll be interesting to see, how Chelsea do. But they'll definitely be up and around the title race, I think, in my opinion. Man City, I'm going to go for third place. Um, Despite the good additions that they made, I just don't feel like the team is quite there to go to that next level again, like they have done over the years. I still feel like there's something missing. Um, a lot depends on Rodri staying fit as well, because I don't think he's available at this stage right now. So um, they've got players that can, fill in the job here and there, but he's a formidable player. So when he's not in the team, the quality dip, it's quite evident. So for me, I think they'll definitely be challenging for the title. It's not going to be a walk in the park for whoever I crown champions, but I think it won't be enough to claim the title this season. So, who am I going to go for as a champion, and who am I going to go for in the run up place? Um, no surprise. I'm going for Arsenal in second, even though the pressure is on them to deliver, but I don't think they'll have it in them to deliver the huge title. And of course, the winner goes to Liverpool. Not saying it from a biased point of view. I think Liverpool, for the first time, have actually acted like a big club and have acted like current champions, where they've gone into the market and signed real quality players. We've not seen that in a very, very long time. So this is a different sort of angle from our ownership. They mean business and they've really strengthened our squad and they've given Onslaught a war chest this summer to definitely add to the squad. So for me, this summer, in terms of what we've done in terms of transfers, couldn't have gone any better. Of course, the Mark Gay one is the one that's a little bit sour right now, but I think it's a 9.5 out of 10 window. I think we've been that good, and the additions that we made, a lot of them I feel like weren't even realistic. The likes of Isak, Florian Wirtz, these are world level players. So I'm over the moon in terms of the additions we've made, and I feel like we're definitely going to go back to back and retain the Premier League title. So yeah, so that's my prediction there. Just gonna go through the top and present your predictions. So thank you guys for presenting your predictions. I'll start with AR. He has gone for Liverpool number one, which yes, definitely matches my prediction there. Arsenal second. He's gone for Chelsea third, which is interesting. Man City fourth, Tottenham fifth, and FA Cup. I haven't presented my FA Cup. This was just a Premier League show, but thank you for presenting your predictions here as well. So FA Cup is gone for Arsenal. So that looks like maybe Arteta will keep his job if that ends up happening. EFL Cup to Chelsea, which makes sense. They've got about 50 players in the squad, so they'll be able to rotate a lot heavier in comparison to others. Champions League, Liverpool, I like that. I'm predicting Liverpool to win the Champions League as well. And I think your relegation is Sunderland, Burnley, and Leeds. So you've gone for all three promoted teams to go down, which is fair enough. So thank you for your prediction there. Uh, Ozan Kabak says Liverpool number one, Chelsea number two. Interesting there. City third, Spurs fourth, and Arsenal fifth. That's a surprise about Arsenal in fifth place. But yeah, big up to yourself. Thank you for your predictions there. Philip says Liverpool first, Arsenal second, Chelsea third, and City fourth. Though Arsenal and Chelsea could swap position, and the relegation teams are Burnley, Wolves, and West Ham. I heard a West Ham shout. I feel like they might just have enough to escape that zone. Um, but early signs, it doesn't look good. So yeah, I understand your shout there. So thank you for your predictions as well. Second again, ole ole. They will be second again. Uh, just got a comment here from Duty. Steve says, not gonna lie, Oz, the boring comment from Stewart's last night was out of line. Do you know what? It is what it is. Yeah, if people call me boring, then I have to question why they're even here. So if it feels like my content's boring, why bother coming onto the stream? So yeah, that didn't bode well with me in terms of that kind of comment. Of course, I've got tough skin, so I'm not upset about it. But if you're going to dish out that kind of nonsense, then you're gonna get it back as well. So I think I'm quite chill and I'm quite laid back, as you guys will know on screen. But push a button, you will get a straight response like that. So it is what it is. It's not something I think I'm thinking about too much. But yeah, in terms of your prediction, Delusive, you've gone for Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester United. Manchester United very high in your prediction there. Forest, Villa, Brighton, Newcastle. So third, fourth, fifth. So you've gone for United in sixth place. Okay, Forest seventh, Villa eight, Brighton ninth. Okay, it's not too bad. Newcastle's quite low though, if I'm being honest. Who have you got missing there? Okay, that's interesting. United's high though. I'll be honest with you. I don't expect United to be around the top six at all, unless they they manage to get a worldy level manager, which there aren't many out there right now. So I'll be surprised if they're anywhere near that. But let's see what happens. Uh, only because the Surrey fans got to me. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, is it because of the whole transfer saga? So yeah, I feel like that has probably added to your opinion there. So yeah, big up to you. And you said Palace, I want relegation. I hear you. I hear you. I want Glasnost sack to be fair. That's the first one I'd want. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But in terms of my prediction, I've gone for Burnley, Leeds United, and Wolves to get relegated. So, as you can see on the screen, just to recap: Liverpool champions, Arsenal second, Man City third, Chelsea fourth, and Tottenham in fifth place. So that is my prediction. So you might want to save this video, use it as a receipt for at the end of the season. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna get many of these predictions right, but it makes entertaining viewing for us. So yeah, only time will tell if I'm on the ball here. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Ozan Kamat, thank you to AR, thank you to Philip, thank you to SSB28, and thank you to Delise for your comments. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of scheduled shows, nothing scheduled for the rest of the week or next week. So I'm going to take some time off, but I will be back for the match preview of Burnley versus Liverpool, which will take place next Thursday. But if I decide to do any impromptu shows, I'll try and do it in the next few days or at some point next week. So the best thing to do is hit that notification bell, so you know if I'm doing a live stream or not, and to see what time I'm doing my shows. But at the minute, nothing planned. The next show on schedule will be the match preview of Burnley versus Liverpool next week. So it's got a couple of comments there from Osman saying, fresh fade for Burnley. It's a must. Yeah, it may have to be done. Let's see how my hair's looking, see how I am that week. But if that's what brings the wins, yeah, I might have to do that. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.